Good morning.
Good morning. We're in November. It is November 5th, 2023, and we're so happy to have you with us today. Our topic is elevating the mundane. We're going to be talking the next few weeks about the mundane, the sacred, and the profane. And of course, the one we like and the one that feels the best is the sacred.
Oh,
And so we are going to be talking about how do we elevate the mundane, which because we all have lots of mundane things to do and experience every day. So how do we elevate that? I'm going to begin with an opening prayer, and this encapsulates our teaching. So if you want to close your eyes, this is a sacred time and a holy place. We make it so by our presence here, by the presence of God expressing through us with its divine spiritual qualities, life, love, light, power, peace, beauty, and joy. These qualities form a complete foundation for each of us to experience health, harmony, prosperity, and creative direction in our lives. For this, we give thanks. So be it, and so it is.
I like it.
So I'm going to take just a second here to mute everyone again.
Oh, okay. I just turned the volume down a minute.
And
okay.
So we want to remind people as they pop in here, we're so glad to have you, and please mute yourself. So this idea of elevating the mundane, first of all, the mundane are the everyday chores and tasks that we have to do that can seem uninspiring.
Mundane.
You see, mundane, like coming from el mundo, the world. It's the worldly things we have to do. Clean, wash, prepare food. And we have to do these things for ourselves and our family, and yet it can feel like work that we'd rather not have to do. And
so how do you
we often just get through it.
So how do you make doing the laundry or fixing a meal, how do you make that sacred?
Well, there's a saying in Buddhism.
I didn't really get to this.
Yes, and the Buddhists say, before enlightenment, you
chop wood
and carry water. And after enlightenment, after years of meditation and experiencing that sacred, you
chop wood and
carry water.
I thought it was going to get better. I thought you had a different ending this time.
But you can do that with a happy heart,
right?
A light heart, that you're just doing these things, and all the time the presence of the divine is with you, and that's what elevates it. When you know you are a spiritual being, an eternal spiritual being that is always going to live and has always lived, but at this moment you're experiencing yourself as the human being that you are, doing the human tasks that you have to do. It makes the whole world a more fantastical place with fantastic possibilities. And so as you remember that about yourself, as we did in the opening prayer, that you have always with you the foundation to experience health, harmony, prosperity, and creative direction in our lives. So as you're washing dishes and doing vacuuming and dusting and things like that, you can all the while be knowing that the truth of you is far more than someone who's cleaning. You are a creator, and you're creating with your thoughts and your minds. So what are you thinking about? And if you're thinking about your health, are you thinking about it in derogatory terms, or are you visualizing it as perfect and whole? Because you are creating the mold. You're creating the mold for it with your thoughts. So if you're having a health challenge, instead of like I've had a lot of mucus lately. I don't know if it's from all the dust we had when we had our new windows put in, because they have to grind down the concrete and the wall. What is that board? Wall board.
Yeah.
And so it just dust goes everywhere. And so I can turn that into big worry, or I can visualize it's getting better, it's improving, and there's nothing wrong with me.
So I have a slightly different take on it, and I think it's really great. We can see the same thing in different ways. What I think happens to us a lot, and we don't mean to have it happen to us, is that we have a part of our consciousness, that the part of our consciousness that would celebrate, that would be sacred, that would be truly open and filled with love. That part of us is often on hold, and we don't notice it. And when I say it's on hold, what I mean by that is when I go out to the car to get something, my intention is to get something, not to notice anything in between, not to celebrate the life that I'm living or the fact that I can walk to the car or that I even have a car. And so I think one of the ways we can transform the mundane is to elevate it from mundane to a present life experience. When you're doing the dishes, which way are you swishing the water? How does the water sound? What's the feeling of the soap in your hand? What's it look like when you take the dish from having been a dirty dish to a clean dish? How's it feel when you run your finger across it and it kind of squeaks because of the how you got the.
So you're talking about being present,
Being
with
fully
experience.
present for the experience that you're in. And I think if we practice being fully present in a variety of areas, we'll find ourselves more present all of the time. And I think what happens is that we often have to become present as a decision after we've been doing something for a while. And I shared this example earlier, and it's a brief, it's not a story. But I can remember watching movies, and I wasn't necessarily in the mood to watch a movie, but there was nothing else to do. So I'd put on the movie and I would sort of start watching it. And when I say sort of start watching it, I really wasn't watching it like I was going to watch it. I was watching it like I was still evaluating. And after a few minutes, I would then decide, this is worth watching. And then I got smart. I would go back to the beginning and watch it over again, because that first 5 minutes of evaluating whether I wanted to be involved or not stole the experience from me, just like it disappeared. And so what I think happens is we don't realize that we have actually separated ourselves from what we're doing so that we can save ourselves for those precious moments, those special moments, the times that are worth celebrating. And what ends up happening is we actually lose out on a lot of life. So I really think the message here is be more present for everything you're doing. You may have to slow down, but if you're driving the car, drive the car, feel the steering wheel, notice all of the traffic, notice how it feels. Or you daydream because you don't really want to drive the car, and then you miss your exit and wonder, how did I do that? Because you weren't present. And so really what we're talking about in a way is be as present as you can for every experience that's there in front of you. And therein lies the sacredness.
That's something that I really need to practice and learn,
I
because
wasn't going to bring that up.
what I've noticed is that, and that's called mindfulness.
Yeah.
When you are mindful about what is here right now and what you're doing. And I have a tendency to plan my work and what's coming up and think about it. And actually, the interesting thing about that is that's all I see. When I'm thinking about, I'm seeing, I don't know how, but I'm seeing myself doing those things. And that's the movie that I'm watching.
Mhm.
And I do that a lot when I exercise, when I walk. And the other morning I was walking and I walked past, I don't know, I guess it'd be about a half a mile. And I realized I hadn't checked when I walked. We put some furniture items out to be picked up because we wanted to get rid of them. And I hadn't seen them. And I thought, were they there? Had they been picked up? And I actually walked back to see what I had missed because I wasn't seeing anything around me. I was seeing
that's exactly what I'm
what I
talking
was
about.
thinking about.
Yeah.
So I came back, and in fact, everything had already been taken. So it's not that I didn't see them; they weren't there.
Yeah.
But I didn't know whether they were there or not, is the point.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't looking for them then. So I do think that is a technique that we can use to make the mundane more more sacred.
Well, and one of the traps we fall into is we all think we can multitask. And the multitasking, we can do that, but the trouble is you're dividing the energy that you have to appreciate and to be inspired and to love whatever's going on around you. If you've ever listened to a piece of music that you liked, you heard it in the background while you were reading or scrolling, and then you heard it and you cut, and you had to make a decision. Either allow this fantastic piece of music that moves your heart to stay in the background, which means it doesn't move your heart, but it's there, or you have to put down the book and say, I'm just going to listen to this. And I think we have become a culture of people who try to do our very best to multitask almost everything. Scrolling on the phone while you're having a conversation, which means you miss the expression of the person you're talking to. You miss their eyes, you miss their heart. So this is, for me, a real invitation to stop treating the mundane like it's mundane, treat it like it's an adventure story, and it's your job to explore it.
Edward Hayes, in a book called A Pilgrim's Almanac, says, take time, slow down, be still, be awake to the divine mystery that looks so common and so ordinary, yet is wondrously present. The divine mystery. So he's saying, as you slow down, contemplate that, contemplate that we say God is everywhere present, including in you.
But give yourself to the moment. If you give yourself to the moment, you open yourself up to the moment has so much more to offer than you may have noticed up until that very moment. I was watching a cat some time back stalking a mouse. He knew where the mouse was. The mouse was in the hole. He knew the mouse had to come out of the hole, and he was determined to be there when the mouse came out so he could give him an official greeting. What I noticed was the cat was totally and completely fixed on that mouse hole. No, he didn't watch it for a while and then say, I'm not very good at this. There's got to be something better I can do. He devoted his entire attention to that until that mouse came out and he was able to greet it. But the bottom line is that we often are so divided in our thinking that we don't realize how divided that makes our heart and our consciousness and our capacity to love.
Well, let's see, what else can we do to make the mundane more elevated? Rumi always has something brilliant to say. Rumi said, borrow the beloved's eyes. And he's not talking about your lover. He's talking about the divine lover of all. Look through those eyes and you'll see the beloved's face everywhere. No tiredness, no jaded boredom. And he has a quote here, and I don't know where this quote comes from. I shall be your eye and your hand and your loving. And he says, let that happen. And things you have hated will become helpers. How about that? Things that you have hated become lovers. So we can actually take mundane things and be grateful for them. This is a great month to practice gratitude. And as he says, then things that you hate can become.
It's what I was listening to the other on YouTube somewhere. I was watching it. It was really enjoyable to watch a baby. I think he was probably 1 or 2, who was hearing impaired, and they finally got him hearing aids, and they put the hearing aids in, and he fought because and then his mother said something, and he heard her, and this big ear-to-ear grin, and he laughed, and all of a sudden he had discovered the world of sound. And I think, what if we just decided every day to discover the world of sound? What are the sounds around us? What are the birds saying? How are they different? I came out yesterday to do something, and I heard this unhappy sound, and it was a kind of you don't belong here, stay away from here, go away from here kind of sound. And I thought, somebody's telling me that they didn't want me there. And I looked around, it was a cardinal. He was on the bush about 5 feet away from me, and he was saying, this is my bush, get away from me. And then when I got away from him, then he began chirping, making other sounds. The sound was communicated so much information. And I can imagine there's been lots of times in my life when I wouldn't have heard the cardinal, I wouldn't have heard anything. I would have only heard my own thoughts and wished that they didn't have the thoughts that I had. So if you're not liking the thinking that you're doing, you can change it, or you can give it up for what's going on around you.
One of the things that we can do is take care of the ordinary things, so then we have time to contemplate the both what we want to create, what we would like to experience, meaning be, do, or have, and contemplate wellness, contemplate happiness. But sometimes we have to get the other stuff done. You know, our statement, our vision statement is a world that works for everyone. And this person, Sharif Abdullah, wrote a book called Creating a World That Works for All. And what he says is a world that works for all is one where our mundane actions serve our deepest individual and collective needs. In such a world, the possibility of the beautiful and the sublime exists because we have already taken care of the ordinary. So it's important to take care of the ordinary so that we can experience the sublime.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you can experience the sublime while you're doing the ordinary. It can become trance-like. But, you know, I know that at a time right now where, you know, we're experiencing war on two fronts in our world, and our media likes to focus on nothing else. And it's hard to think about, well, how can I be thinking about how wonderful and sublime and all these wonderful things? Well, my question to you might be, does your concern, upset about these wars, does it help the people there? Is it helpful at all? And I posit that it does not. You don't do anybody any good by worrying. Now, if you want to take that worry or that concern and translate it to doing something helpful, like sending aid to those who need it, that's a constructive
Or
act.
even mentally blessing all of the people, or holding the high watch for an outcome that would service everyone and their highest and best needs, taking the posture that you have a role in all of this thing called living, and that the role that you're taking in this is actually making a difference.
So you could visualize peace.
Yes.
Visualize.
You know, I think what happens when I watch the bombs and they say, we'll be right back to show you more bombing, is in my head, the bombing just continues and continues. I got what's happening is happening, but how did we create that? We created that in mind. How do we change that? We change our mind. If enough of us hold the high watch for the best and the highest that can possibly come out of all of this, we won't be fighting. We won't be part of the problem. And if there is a solution, we will be part of the momentum that helps that solution unfold. And there has to be that momentum. So I think we have to change the energy. We have to transform that energy into kindness and love, however we can do that. Or we can shut it off and say, I'm not going to give any attention to it. But what I notice is the more we shut down the things we don't like, the smaller our world gets. So what we need to be able to do is to open our eyes and our hearts to, if bad things are happening, how can we inject love and kindness into those situations? Judith and I watch a lot of nature programs, and I've watched Judith make a change over the years that we've been together, because I'm probably the biggest advocate for nature programs. And so very often a lion would be stalking, you know, what looks like a helpless little animal. And Judith's response, oh, I hate that when that, you know, and then they'd show you the mother lion taking the baby that it just killed to her babies. And I was listening to Judith the other day after we watched one of them. She says, everybody eats somebody. You know, the world is all hungry and they're all eating somebody. But the truth is, what I've seen happen in watching Judith watch the nature, she's come to love the lion and the animal that gives its life up for the babies. Yeah, and so what we have to be willing to do is get off of that. I made up my mind what's right and what's wrong and what's good and what's bad and what color things should be and how they should unfold. And I'm not going to waver from that. And that's the way that is. It's a new world. Let me explore it. Let me see if the things that I've held true are still true. Let me see how I can evaluate the world in a new way. Everything that happens to you is an opportunity for you to change how you are in the world, for you to examine the way you view the world, for your interactions of the world. And if you do that, it's an exciting adventure all of the time. It's never done because things are always changing.
Well, and also, you know, we believe that there's great power in visualization, that you're actually creating what you're visualizing. So if we were all just thinking about, ain't it awful, war, 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 we're just helping perpetuate war. So when you visualize peace, when you visualize happiness, prosperity, you're helping to create that really in the world. Your mind is a creative activity.
Mhm.
And your visualization is a creative activity. So you want to use that visualization for your own health, for your own prosperity, for the world peace. And so, and guess what? It makes you feel better while you're doing
Mhm.
it. You know, you, instead of visualizing what you don't want, you're visualizing what you do want, and you're helping to create that. So that's how a life works. That's
Yeah.
how we all have so many of us achieve our dreams, because that's what we've done. We've thought about them, we visualized them, we wanted them, and guess what? We manifest it, we materialize it. That our thoughts are not no things, they are
No.
important things, and our visualization is a very powerful tool.
And our thoughts shape the condition of the journey that we're on. I remember going on a 4-week camping trip with my motorhome, and we drove 10,000 miles in 4 weeks, which is a lot of driving. And I felt safe and secure because I knew we had a really good spare tire should we ever have a flat. I got home, opened up the back of it, took out the stuff, and I realized that tire had been flat the entire journey. So, what I could have done is I could have said, well, we'll go as far as we can, but that tire is flat. See, if you've got a flat tire in consciousness, your whole journey is a flat tire. If you have a flat tire in consciousness and you can fix it, that would be wonderful. But you have to recognize that you're being run by your ideas about a thing, and the thing itself may or may not actually be real, but it becomes real for you.
So a clue is, if you notice you're feeling upset or agitated in any way, go back and trace the thought. What was I just thinking about? What was I just saying to myself?
Mhm.
And look at that and say, do I want to change that? Do I want to say something, my self-talk, have it be more positive? So then I can, and then I will feel better. And you do. So you can change gears when you realize, but it starts with noticing how you're feeling. You know, depression, I would say, is you're depressing yourself with what conversation you're listening to. You're talking to yourself about you.
Well, you mentally turn the lights out and then you feel awfully dark. Yeah, it's like, really? We need to start I don't need the lights on. A friend of mine recently went through a loss of a relationship, and I said, so how are you doing? He says, I'm doing okay with it. I said, well, what are you doing? He says, well, I go home, I turn off all the lights, I put on country western music, and I have a drink, and it's really awful. And I said, what would happen if you turned the lights on and didn't play the country western songs? If I've been left, I got a drink. And he said, I don't know. I never thought of that. I said,
Picked a fine time too.
yeah. So, but what he didn't realize is he was creating a mental and physical soundtrack for the suffering that he was doing that he didn't want to do.
Yeah, but it matched this
But
feeling.
it matched
Right?
his feelings. So I said, why don't you try stepping out of that just a little bit? How would I do that? Turn at least one light on in the house. You don't have to sit in total darkness. But sometimes I think what we actually have are, as adults, we have mental tantrums. We get very mad and we withdraw and we shut down and we just wail away at whatever's wrong and figure sooner or later God's going to step in. Oh, I didn't realize you were suffering. I'm sorry. Let me fix that for you. Like maybe our parents did when we were in the crib crying because the toy was on the other side of the bars. It doesn't work as an adult, and so we have to really be mindful of, do our tantrums benefit us? Can we change that into kindness, and at least towards ourselves? Well, we racked up a lot of minutes here pretty quick.
We did. Oh, we did. Oh my goodness. Well, let's see. How shall we close? I think I'm going to close with an Ernest Holmes quote.
Oh, I love. He is such an amazing writer. He could found a whole religion.
This is in a book he wrote called This Thing Called Life. He says, God is an infinite presence and an indwelling reality. The silent whisperings of this inner presence come to each as a divine revelation, an inner communion of the individual spirit with the oversoul, that vast and invisible presence in which we live, move, and have our being.
Ooh.
So know that you're never alone. You're always accompanied.
Good stuff. Put your arm around me.
Your arm going forward makes me invisible. What do
That's,
you want to press?
put your
Let
arm
me
around
press it.
the other,
Let me press it.
there you go.
Oh, now I'm
Now you're, now
totally
you can,
invisible.
yeah. Judith too. Okay, we're going to share the screen.
Yeah.
We're going to share the screen because we're going to show you something that you need to see just for a little bit, which is, this is how, if you would like to. Okay, if you would like to support the work that we do here, our Sunday meetings, help us pay the insurance, the rent, the electricity, and everything else that happens to go with ministry, please feel free to connect with this website. You can send cash, you can send a check, you can send a money order, you can bring the money to us personally, however you want to do that. We appreciate the support. It makes a huge difference. And this ministry exists because of you and because of your support.
So this is our website, cslpalmbeaches.org. And when you go there, you see a button called Ways to Donate, and click on that, and it shows you about 3 different ways. Yeah. So we thank you for your support. And let's say our affirmation. Affirmations, another thing that we believe in, which they are positive statements that we state in the present as if they are happening now.
And they are.
And they are. And so let's say together, my investment today is made with a full realization that God is the source of my supply and returns it to me enriched and multiplied. Because that's the law.
Okay, so now we're going to go to stop recording. There we go.